Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Talk with Miguel Rivera podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. His name is Adrian Rios. Adrian Rios is about to embark on his 30th year in education, and he is currently finishing up his 6th college degree. Adrian's goal is to inspire as many people as he can to take advantage of what education has to offer. Adrian was born and raised in Santa Ana, and he is a first-generation college-bound student. Adrian, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you on. Thank you for, reaching out, and, it's how you're doing today. Your audio, Adrian, your audio.
I'm doing exceptionally well. I feel good. This morning, I got up super early. Thank the man upstairs for another beautiful day.
Yes, sir.
And I was able to go to the Hispanic Leadership Conference at Concordia University and listen to some great speakers. I was able to collaborate with a couple important people so we can get some other presentations going. That's my goal, to be able to spread the word, spread the message. And I met some great contacts this morning that said they're interested. So it's going to lead to other projects, which is amazing.
That is amazing. That sounds pretty awesome. You mentioned Concordia. I know you're speaking at a couple of conferences. So how did that even come up to begin with? Like, why are you speaking there?
Actually, I'm a speech communication major, graduated from a top 10 program, Cal State University Fullerton. Mm-hmm. And one of my instructors, he says, the first day you get into class, he says, what better way than to learn from a rich wise man? And that was his name, Rich Wiseman. So he was one of my lead instructors that kind of motivated me and encouraged me to give presentations. So for the last 20 years, I would say I've been speaking to different high schools, communicating with kids within the K through 12 ranks, giving motivational speeches for them. So today, I kind of surprised my dissertation chair by showing up. She was happy to see me, and she said, since you're here, I'm going to introduce you to all the right people. And I met some people that are in charge of a nonprofit organizations that said we need a keynote speaker at the Hispanic Leadership Conference. There was a guy from who was a Hollywood producer that was speaking today. And so I said, my goal, she says, how would you feel trying to speak next year as a keynote? And I said, I'm ready to go. So whatever it takes, let's make it happen. And this past week, I was fortunate to be able to go to Las Vegas to speak at the CLUT conference, an international conference.
Right.
And I just feel motivated, man. I feel like
you sound motivated. You sound motivated. That's what's up.
My experience, my exposure, my expertise, and my education allow me to be where I'm at. It's 30 years piled up in my mindset just to let out. And like I said, I've had some great experiences through my educational realm and just going, being part of different districts. I've learned from many great people, many great leaders,
right.
But it just takes a lot of desire to keep going.
Definitely. How do you maintain that desire? Because everything you talked about, and just from knowing you to some extent, I know it's a marathon, not a journey, right? I mean, not a sprint, right? Yeah. So you have to kind of really have that balance and desire, motivation. And I think a lot of people struggle with that at some point, right? So how did you maintain that?
Just growing up, my city of Santa Ana, very proud. I've had many chances to move, and I said, no, I want to stay deep rooted in my city.
There we go.
Being the youngest of my brothers, two of my brothers on here now. I think one of them was here, but he'll jump back on. Just learning from them, seeing their pathways that they created for me. One being, my oldest brother here, his name is Cruz. So Cruz, having
nice.
that name is powerful because it means cruz. So cruz is the cross.
Right.
And carry that cross along the way to see his journey going forward. So that's kind of guided me by being a man of faith. And my brother Eddie's on here also. He was more the a rebel growing up, and but now he's kind of got his life together and making things happen, and just kind of listening in. As a young guy, my advice, me giving them advice, was always hard because they were older than me, and they would just listen, but they would also give me the hard pathway to follow. And then my brother Ronnie, who's also was here earlier, he's more of the guy like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So just bouncing all their ideas off one another and just creating, taking those into consideration and going forth and creating my own pathway. I just feel growing up, breaking all barriers, being at odds, being against a lot, man. It's no joke just to be raised where we were raised, and we had to, some days it was glory and some days it was survival mode. But that mentality was, what, the more we survive, it could be more difficult. It's a difficult pathway, but that allowed us to say, if the more barriers that lie in front of us, we got to find a way to go under them, over them, around them, but just keep on moving forward. So that's where the desire comes from. And right now, as long as I've been in education, I feel that my motivation is more excelling than ever. Like I'm ready to just 30 years of inspiration embedded in my mindset. I just continue to establish that growth mindset and let it out, inspire people.
I feel it. I feel it. I can feel it. And I think all of our guests also feel and hear the compassion in your voice, right? Without even probably knowing you, at least someone who doesn't know you, they hear you speak, they hear the energy, they feel the passion. And I think we can feel that right now. So a lot of the things you pointed out, you made a lot of good points. A lot of important people in your life who really supported you, who really provided that guidance. I think that's something that we all, to some extent, have those people in our lives, but we don't really pay attention, right? We don't really kind of take advantage or take the time to listen to what they're saying, right? Yeah. But it sounds like you understood that, you listened, you paid attention. And even though it was a struggle at times, right? Growing up where you grew up, and even to this day, it's a struggle and challenging, but it's that willpower, that desire, that drive, that motivation. It's within you, right? So do you find that to be something that can be learned, or is that something like you're born with, or how do you develop that if that's not who you are naturally?
I feel that it's a little bit of both, man. I feel that with all the hardships, everything that you go through, everything, if your back's against the wall, because nobody's really going to have your vision. You have to establish your own vision. For many years, I waited upon my doorstep for someone to come to me, knock on the door and say, hey, you're going to be the next doctor, the next lawyer, the next person that's going to be special, make a difference. Well, unfortunately, that never happened. So you got to create your own pathway. But I feel that innately within yourselves, something along your journey has to spark. And when you get that spark going, you just run with it. You just keep moving forward and you don't give up. But also, I think it can be a learned behavior. If someone walks alongside of me, rather than me walk in front of them or me walk behind them, walk alongside of me and let's walk the journey together. It could definitely be learned by establishing good mentors, good leaders. And here's the key right here. You have to be a servant leader first. You have to serve. If you're going to be a leader, you have to be a servant leader and display and model by example. Don't expect to have a top-down approach to say, hey, follow me, let's do this. No, you be that servant put other people first and establish that willpower. Win their trust, establish a relationship and rapport with them, and then move forward with them. Walk alongside of them. Don't say, hey, you're behind me, I'm in front of you. No, that's not good. You want to be able to walk alongside of them. Hey, walk on this journey with me, make it happen. So that's the key element right there.
I hear you. I feel it. Yeah, it's togetherness, right? That it's not me or you, it's we, it's us. Like, let's do this. You know what I mean? I feel you on that. I definitely agree with that. 100%, 1,000%, to be quite honest with you. And I really like how you pointed out, it's also, it's something you can learn and kind of be mentored, right? At the same time, there's certain things within our lives that happen, right? We're exposed to different things, whether that be where we grew up or a certain moment or a certain day or just something that happened in our life that completely flipped the switch for us. And we were either decided to or were forced to some extent. So I could definitely relate to that. And I hear you on that. One thing that you mentioned that really caught my attention was, you stayed where you grew up, right? In Santa Ana. You wanted to make a difference in your community. A lot of people, when they become educated or, develop all these different skills and resources, they tend to leave where they grew up because they tend to want to go somewhere better. At least that's what they believe, right? But in this sense, you're coming back, you're staying home, right? You're transforming the community that you were raised in, and guiding and mentoring and doing even more, right? So can you talk a little bit about why you chose to just stay home and serve your community, make a difference rather than gain all this knowledge, right? And kind of leave and go elsewhere?
Why, there's an old saying that I learned a long time ago. I'm pretty much suited, booted, and rooted. I feel that,
Nice, I like
you
that.
know, I feel that if you dress better, you think better. You think
Mm,
better, you perform better. You perform better, your results are better. So you just keep on going with it. So staying rooted in my community, sooner or later, whether we grew up, let's just say we grew up more on the, on the lower class side, and then our only way is to go up.
mm,
So if we're focused on, looking at elements or breaking barriers, we want to be able to just slowly, even if it's a snail pace, doesn't matter.
right.
Like a good example, my brother, Edward, he just went back to school recently after 30 years. And
Mm,
I feel that I had an integral part in his life to say, hey, go back to school, use your mindset. You have a mind,
right,
a heart. So now he
right.
walked away recently with 2 degrees. My
Nice.
other
There you
brother,
go.
our other brother Cruz, went to Cal State Fullerton out of high school. So
Mhm,
it's we just have to keep on going. We just
right.
have to keep it going and keep the elements going. But like I said, being from Santana, being from Santa Ana, for me, it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful
Mm,
place because we're rich in history. We got a lot of people that are important here. We grew up around close to the courthouse, the county jail.
right,
That was our front yard.
right.
And seeing that every day, it was either you make a choice. You're either gonna get straight and make it happen,
Mhm,
or you're gonna go left and things are gonna sway wrong. So
mm,
what do you want to do? You want to stay focused and be a difference maker, or you want to do something else and be a dream breaker? So it's up to you
mm.
what you want to do.
You mentioned a few, man, you mentioned a few quotes that I have to write down, man. I'm gonna have to save that for later. I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to save that for later. That's wise right there. That's a wise man speaking. That's Adrian right there. I like that a lot. No, I appreciate that response, and it does make a big difference when you decide to come back to where you stay, or either come back, whatever the case may be. But one thing I recognize, a lot of people do want to leave, and at the same time, not only do they want to leave, but a lot of people from time to time don't speak well about where they grew up and tend to forget where they came from and how they were brought up. Because at the end of the day, wherever we come from, wherever we're born and raised, we got to appreciate that and acknowledge, where our roots are at, and not forget where we come from. And I think a lot of people tend to forget. You know what I mean?
absolutely. One
Yeah.
thing, one thing is I always try to make it a bright, shiny day when I come
Mhm.
across people. I try to say hi to them because you never know what they're going through. They may be going through a hard time in their lives, and you have to be the one to say, you know what? If you want me to be the gatekeeper for you, let me inspire you. Hey, how you doing? Sometimes I'll call people,
Mhm.
and they could be cold, or they won't answer, or they cut me short. But at the end of the day, hey, if I planted that seed in their life for 2 seconds, then it's
Right.
gonna prosper. So you have to be the light that's penetrating that darkness. You got to
Right.
be able to make a difference. And
Mm.
that's my goal. My
Mm.
goal is to get my message out everywhere, whether it's this platform, Las Vegas platform, wherever it is. I'm
Yes,
ready to
sir.
grow. I'm ready to
Hmm.
get it going. That's my goal. And I want to inspire everybody, all cultures. I want
Mm.
to be able to, I hear these guest speakers that are giving TED Talks. They're great, but they're not
Mm.
me. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it's not to
Yeah.
say, I've heard their stories. I feel that my story is even deeper than theirs.
Right.
I could sit here for hours and tell you about my story, but
Right.
the main thing is to inspire, like Kimberly, former student, who's doing well now. She's listening in. I want to continue to inspire her. She's expressed that I was inspiration to her, but I want to continue
Mm.
to inspire her to say, hey, you know what? Let me help you walk along the way with me so we can move forward and keep going with it. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Because the future generation is what's important. Our future leaders,
Yes, sir.
our future doctors, lawyers,
Hmm.
nurses, all of that is important. So
Yep.
that's my goal, is to spread that message.
Right. Planting those seeds. Right.
Planting those seeds, let them prosper.
Exactly. Shout out to Kimberly in the chat. She mentioned Mr. Rios, my high school counselor, and helped me get my grades up. There you go. You're a big inspiration to me, Mr. Rios. So, hey, you're inspiring the world right now, right? You got people.
It's only the beginning, brother. That's what I got to say. I have a lot to say, a lot to share, and it's modeled by example. You know, I've been in the trenches, man, and to be able to survive the trenches is no joke. It transforms you in whatever way you allow it to transform you, and to be able to keep going forward. You know, yeah, you look to the left, you look to the right, you see the temptation to the right, you see the temptation to the left, but the goal is to keep moving forward, keep going forward one step at a time, even if it's snail pace or if it's rabbit pace. You just have to keep on going. You know,
right.
And there's a story that I share with my students. Been sharing. I said there's four. Let's just say there's four guys that I grew up with. We all got up together in the morning. We all got dressed. We all went to the same school. We all walked together, right? We all went to the same school. We had the same teachers. We hung out together. We had lunch together. We hung out at 7-Eleven after school. We all walked home together. We all played street football out in front of our houses together. We all went to our houses and we did it all over again for many, many years. But why is it that all four of us, why is it our lifestyles ended up so different? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the only thing I can think of is inspiration, desire, ganas. You have four guys are walking forward. One looks to the left, one looks to the right. That's their journey. Another one sees a barrier in front of them and stops. And that's the end of their journey. But my journey was to keep going. And that was something that was thought of many, many moons ago, to keep on going. And that's the key, man. We just got to keep on going and not give up. And I really feel, honestly, I feel like my life's barely starting with this concept. So I'm like you said, rapid fire. I'm ready to go.
Yes, sir. I like how you pointed out, you know, it just started, right? A lot of people look at age or wherever they are in life and they think that for some reason, because they're a certain age, or maybe they didn't do this or they didn't do that, like that it's a wrap, like it's over. Like, and that's not the case. You know what I mean? Age is just a number. You know, we could do anything at any time, and you know, Lord willing, we're gonna live very long lives, right? So I'm a true believer in it's never too late, right? I think you mentioned someone earlier who graduated or, you know, at a later time than what they expected. But I think I can also think of some people who went to school much later in their life at a later age. And, you know, you always hear those comments like, oh, they're this old or this age, or whatever, but that don't matter. You know what I mean? Like, regardless, we can always go back in whatever situation we're in. You know, I remember a point in my life where I thought, like, I wasn't going to be going to school, but nah, like you mentioned, you wanted that desire, some way, somehow, you're going to make it happen. And that's what you're doing. And I know I kind of want to tie it to how we met, you know, how we started talking, right? And it was just, you know, right away I knew, well, the first time I believe I heard you talk was when you came to Saddleback, and you shared your research and what you're working on, and you were looking for people to join you and participate within your research. And I thought your presentation and everything you're doing aligned with everything in my interest, right? And I was on board with that. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to participate and support what you were doing. And as we started meeting more and more throughout, you know, Santa Ana and conferences here and there, you know, that connection just kind of expanded and strengthened itself. So, you know, I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate you. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. I just feel that, you know, when we go to those conferences and you have 200 people there, I try to make my you know, my words felt. I go around and try to say hi to people. So I've even had people say, hey, I apologize, I didn't get around to you, you know, but in my mind, hey, in my mind, if you're not getting around to me, I'll try to close the gap. I'll go talk to you. But I just want to spread that message. If you're going to talk to me at a conference and we're going to communicate, I'm going to try to motivate you. I'm going to try to inspire you. You know, that's the opportunity that was laid out in front of me. So that's what I want to do. You know, I just want to keep every opportunity be golden. It's a golden opportunity to be successful, you know, so that's my plan.
I hear you. what have been some challenges for you that maybe, or some temptations or some distractions that you've been experiencing within the last year or so that's really kind of been tough?
Well, first off, I want to acknowledge a couple people that are here.
Sure.
Recent doctors, Dr. David Gago and Dr. Kathleen Losi. These two are my big inspirations within the doctoral program.
Nice.
I mean, without them, it wouldn't be possible. They're just inspiring to me. They're dedicated, and we fed off each other's energy. You know, I know David's a Bills fan, and he's a Dodger fan, so that was our way to connect. You know, the sport.
Nice.
And Dr. Losi would always throughout the 3-year journey just call me, check up on me, how you doing, keep it going. And her favorite saying is, "There's no better dissertation than a finished dissertation."
Ooh.
A finished degree. So that's the truth. There's many people in our lifetime that start something and don't finish something. And you know what? Like you said, Mr. Rivera, it's never too late. I don't care how old you are. The man upstairs, our Lord and Savior, gave us the opportunity to use our mind, our mindset, to focus, to use our ability. And every single day for the last 20 years, I've been preaching this to my students. I've been telling them, you need to learn the 5 essentials. You need to learn how to read, write, speak, listen, and think. Not only do that, but effectively. Okay. You learn that, you can use your voice and spread the message. You know, when you read better, you think better, you perform better, you write better. And it just keeps on going.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. It's all in our mindset. So I thank Dr. Gago and Dr. Losi for being here. They're inspiring to me. My brother Ronnie just got on board.
Nice.
He's here. So I'm glad he's listening. He has his kids with him, but he's here to listen. I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely want to also take a moment to shout out everybody, you know, for joining us. So thank you all for being with us today. Definitely, you all, this is our first live audience for my podcast. So I appreciate you all joining us today. So definitely, Adrian, let's talk a little bit about. Well, first of all, going back, you mentioned some key people, right? People you recognize right now in the audience, and I'm sure there's others. So it sounds like support, having that support system, having that mentorship, having people in your corner back you up, you know, remind you of the goal, remind you of your why, right? And I think that is a true difference maker. And so can you talk a little bit about how we can get young people more involved and more aware of why that's important? You know what I mean?
That's a golden question. And in particular, I watched the video of a good friend of mine I grew up with, whose brother was incarcerated. And his brother was stating that, you know, sending the messages out to the youth, to the young generation, that establishing programs, you know, the Dream Big Project. I want to say getting involved in organizations like that, the LULAC organization,
you
know, Girls Inc., mentorship. I think that just keeping kids busy, keeping kids engaged, keeping kids motivated,
right,
and rewarding kids, I think at this time with this generation, because they're our future. Kids need to establish relationships with their parents. I know right now the biggest flaw, right now is we have our young generation where they're focused on social media, they're focused on YouTube, or they're focused on whatever it is. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there needs to be monetization, because what's happening with our youth, which I want to say our starving youth, is they're getting home from a long day. Their parents are anxious to see them and say, "Hey, mijo, hey, mija, how you doing? How's it going?" And the first thing they do is the kids will drop their backpack, they walk straight to the room, they close the door, and they're on their social media network. And that's a problem there. It's a broken down system of communication. I think communicating with your kids, sitting them at the table, establishing that rule and saying, "Hey guys, we're going to have dinner at 5 o'clock. Let's bring those old traditions back. Let's talk." What I started particular with my family is we started having dinner at a specific time, and we go around and ask questions. They have 2 9-year-olds and a 4-year-old, and me and my wife. And I said, "Hey, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask the first question. I select anyone in the group, and I say, 'Hey, okay, how was your day today? And then my son or daughter will answer. And then they have to ask somebody else a question. So it goes round robin. And that's establishing the communication,
I
because
like that.
I don't want to be at the dinner table and something's going through my son's mind and he's not expressing it. Right
Right.
now, I'm
Right.
expressing myself. That's the biggest, the best thing you could do. When kids are in art class, you want them to draw. I have an art background. My brother Eddie has an art background. You want them to express themselves with art. If it's in English class, Dr. Losi just retired from teaching 30 years, but it's expressing himself how to write. You have to get them to write so they don't have that dormant tension in their mindset. You
Right.
want them to express themselves, whether it's
Right.
verbal, nonverbal, or through written expression.
Right.
So those are key elements that I would like to see happen within the household. Kids need to get involved.
Right.
That's on a program, no matter what it is. It could be something that's different. In the Latino culture, you're not going to get a lot of people that are going to play golf, but hey, that might be someone's bright morning star. Get them to play golf. It
Right.
doesn't matter what they do. Everybody wants their kid to be the football star, the baseball star. Get them into something, whatever element they can connect with. As long as you're keeping their mindset busy, that's the important thing, you know? And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, really, you're talking about just exposing our kids to different opportunities, different ways of thinking, whether that be and mainly or especially in the home, right? At home. And parents have a big part of that, right? At the same time.
Let's think about Serena and Venus Williams getting exposed to tennis in Compton, California.
Great example.
That's a great example. You want to get them exposed to that. And look at them. They're both, you know, all world and everything when it comes to tennis. So
and then see how their parents played a role in that.
Absolutely.
Right? The environment, the neighborhood they grew up in during that time period, and the lack of resources and funding and everything that they had. But at the end of the day, they had the desire, they had that support at home. And that's the baseline. That's the foundation that has to be established. Right. And that's missing in a lot of households for various reasons, of course. I'm curious, what do you think about how when COVID hit, you know, pandemic and just all the changes, the isolation and everything we starting to see now, at least in schools, what's your perspective on that? How do we address that? How do we continue to move forward and transform lives in a positive way?
I just feel on it, and Dr. It's amazing you say that, because Dr. Los just finished her dissertation on the pandemic. So she has that deep rooted understanding of it. But from my perspective, I feel that our backs were against the wall. We were not prepared. One of my child's established a tick from being online, didn't like online, was stressed out, created stress. So now, you know, I got him into a couple sports to express himself, to let out that steam, and it's been helpful. But coming back to the school culture, I feel that
culture.
We really need to establish engagement. We're focused on the social emotional learning aspect right now. You know, whether it's sadness, anger, disgust, fear, interest, surprise, or happiness, whatever kids are experiencing, we need to be there for kids. Recently, our district, as you know, Mr. Rivera, as you know, we established the regimen of 250 to 1. 250 students to 1 per counselor. I think that should be established. Compton, California started it, and now, you know, Santa Ana Unified School District is following suit. But I think all districts should do that and have more of a personalized education.
Definitely.
When I and many people would tell you, we had back in the day through our educational system, we had a group of educators that were hired at a particular school site that we all went to, and those staff members stayed for 30 years together. So they were family for 30 years. And now recently they all started retiring within the last couple of years. And coming in with a new wave of people. What happens is, no disrespect to anybody, but you lose that cultural value, the deep-rooted cultural value of those people that have been there for so long. I mean, coaching sports, establishing programs. We had in particular, we had a dance teacher who was there 30 years. We had a baseball coach who was there 30 years. We had a football coach that was there 30 years. I mean, you can't replace those people because they left a mark in history. Okay.
True.
You can only compliment what they've done, but
Right.
that's what we need. We need to continue. This is why we need to prepare our kids better. And we're doing that by establishing. Kids are now getting their AA degree at the high school level,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is good. And they're getting their bachelor's degree at age 20, 21. They're getting their
Right.
master's degree at 22, 23. And even we in our cohort, we had two students who were 23 and 24 getting a doctorate. I mean, that's Martin Luther King that status right there.
Right.
Dr.
Right.
Martin Luther King got his degree at 25.
MLK. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
a great point. Yeah.
That's inspiring.
Yeah. You don't see that every day. When you see it, you know what's going on, right? You already know the desire there, right? You already have an idea of that. And that's a difference maker, essentially.
Absolutely. Right? Mr. Rivera, do you think we could take some questions from a couple people at this time?
Sure. Let's go ahead and take a couple minutes. Anyone have any questions? Feel free to put it in the chat. Or you can also raise your hand and we can go ahead and start unmuting anybody. So by all means, if anybody has any questions, want to chime in, comment, definitely like to take a moment to acknowledge that and get some answers from Mr. Rios. Okay. Dr. Lozzi, let me ask you to unmute yourself.
Hi. Hey, this is Kathleen, and I don't really have a question, but I have an accolade for Dr. Rios. I am so proud of him. We are in the same cohort at Concordia University in Irvine, and we met on the very first day of class. Long story short, I just loved him from the moment I met him. And I knew that he had this magnetism, leadership, and burning desire to change the world. And watching him go through the dissertation process and now starting his journey to do just that, it's been just such a thrill to be a part of the ride. So proud of you, Adrian.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I definitely remember the night when we started our program. I think it was like a Friday night. We show up to campuses, nobody's there. And I couldn't find where we were supposed to be. I went to the wrong building. And then I go to this other building. They say, go up to the third floor and it's all dark inside. And am I going to the right place? Am I going to go up the elevator? No one's going to be there. So all these things are seeping through my mind, only to walk in this door where I have the two doors open and there's 3 or 4 people there. And Kathleen was sitting right next to me. And like she said, we kicked it off really well. And just inspiring this whole journey along the way. She's kept me up to par. She's kept me in check with the, focusing, just her favorite saying about, of the best dissertation is a finished dissertation. And then seeing David there. David came all the way from Kern County. He drove on a Thursday, spent the night, and showed up to class, came to class on Saturday, and then drove all the way back.
Wow, that's dedication. Talk about dedication.
Yeah, all the way from Northern California, for those that are familiar with Kern County out there. So
thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate the comments, and I agree. I agree with everything you said regarding Adrian. He's one of a kind, most definitely. Edward Rios in the chat. Great job, Adrian. You're inspiring and motivated. You're on fire. Keep it going. Pass it forward. That's exactly what you're doing right now. Anyone else want to raise their hand? Want to unmute themselves? Have a question, a comment? By all means, this is the time to do so. So we going once, going twice.
People are shy.
People are shy. That's all right. That's all right. Feel free to put it in the chat. We do have Kimberly have a question for Mr. Rios. How do you have the energy to wake up every day with a great attitude? Great question. Great question.
Kimberly, thank you for that. I mean, you're getting me a little teary-eyed right now because I know your background. I know that you had it hard too, and your back was against the wall. When you came to my school site, the school site I was at, it takes a lot of inspiration just to follow the course. I've had many kids in my 7-year reign there. Many kids were saying, their mentality was, I'm coming in and no one expected me to graduate. And my mentality was like, no, you follow suit, let me work with you. Just listen, even if it's through trial by fire, trial and error, we're going to get you to graduate. And there's a lot of kids that came in with that expectation, and the results were amazing. I mean, throughout the whole time I was there, we had over 1,000 plus kids graduate. They were considered, at the tier 3 level with response to intervention, and we got them to graduate. And a lot of them are doing well. A lot of them are hard workers. They're dedicated. But it's students like you, Kimberly. I always think back of myself being in elementary school. I think of the experiences that I had being at Wilson Elementary. I had some pretty inspiring teachers, but the struggles that I went through, and then going to junior high at Willard Intermediate, I felt that in my mind concept, in my mind set, I felt that like the teachers would say, "Hey, I need you to read," and in my mind, because it was survival mode mentality, I was thinking elsewhere. So the reading at the time for me wasn't the primary; it was the secondary. And going to high school, some tidbits of that, the same thing. But as I got to college, I really realized the importance of the 5 essentials, as I mentioned earlier, to never give up. And I have to be that example for all the kids that I come across, whether it's a 6-month-old to an adult. I try to inspire everybody. And it's just, Kimberly, it's the upbringing. Growing up where we grew up, it wasn't easy. And like I said, with all the barriers in front, we had to find a way to dodge those barriers, overcome those barriers, go under those barriers, but make it happen. They'll slow us down, but they're not going to stop us. And that's where the inspiration comes from. And also, my parents, I have to give them a lot of credit. My dad went to school up to the 8th grade. But he would tell me, his wisdom would tell me, say, "Hey, mijo, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Make a name for yourself. When you're out there, represent." And my motto has always been, I have my name on my back. I don't really have it on my back, but in my mind, I have it on my back. And wherever I go, I represent my family. And that's always been in my heart and my mind to do so. And my mom just being a hard worker, raising 4 kids, a lot of people telling her, "I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you did it." 4 guys coming out of that area and being okay coming out of it. To me, it's just, that's an inspiration in itself. In all of the experiences, whether it's a hard experience that we went through, you wake up the next morning, you dust it off, and you say, "Let's keep on going." So that's where we're at.
Great response. Thank you, Kimberly, for that question. It was a great question as well. Any other question before we move on? I want to definitely give people. David, go for it, David.
When Kimberly asked the question, how you wake up every day with a great attitude, it is always this attitude, always a great attitude. He's always uplifting to every single person. So for the last 3 years, we meet on Zoom, we do our coursework. It was always a positive attitude. He's always uplifting. And it makes the process so much better when you have someone that's always positive in your corner. And for all of us that are going through this and getting done, it's just been wonderful. We've been like a family because it's infectious. We want to be uplifting to everybody. And that starts with Adrian. He really does bring that out for all of us, to be as positive to everybody and to believe in everybody. And that belief helps us to realize we can do it just like he's doing it. And we're so proud of where you're going, Adrian. I'm ready to come down and spend some time with you and see what we can do together.
Let's do it.
Nice.
I kind of I want to go back to, thank you for those comments, David. Very inspiring. But I want to go back to last year's, and I hate to mention it, but I want to go back to last year's Bills game in the finals when they were, I think they were playing the Chiefs or whoever it was. They were going back.
Great game.
That was one of the most amazing games I've ever seen. Okay. Or they scored, there was like 17 seconds left. They went back and scored, and it was back and forth, whatnot. And I could, 13 seconds.
13, Adrian, get it right.
I could feel the intensity in the game. And that's been my life. I feel like I was the guy that's been against those 13 seconds. that you got to go do it. You got to accomplish it. The deadline's coming. You got to make it happen. Don't give up. Rise to the top. Go through the finish line. You could be a champion. That's been my mentality to say, hey, you know what? When I saw that game, I kind of saw my life going through that film strip at the same time to say, you know what? You got to keep on going. You have to leave your legacy on this earth. You only live once, as to say YOLO, right? You have to take it and rise it to the top. When I talk to these the younger generation and they say, I can't because of this, or I can't because of that, or I can't do this because I got to work to pay my bills. No, those are excuses.
Yep.
We don't want excuses. We want results. You know what I mean?
Amen.
We want to just keep on going. And like I said, I'm ready. I'm more than ready. I'm ready and willing to share the message, to tell whether it's the top of the top leader to the leader who's barely starting. I want to spread this message out to say, hey, we all need to be servant leaders first. We all need to, don't accept excuses, just make it happen. Show us results. Yesterday, I was coaching my son's football game. And he says, Dad, it's tie game. We're going into the last 2 minutes of the game. And I said, he says, Dad, the guy I'm covering, he's real good. I said, so what? That's what you want. He's going to make you a better player. You want to play against the best. Well, the guy made a nice move. He goes into the end zone. He catches the ball to win the game. We lost the game. And I tell my son, I said, hey, what'd you learn from this? He says, well, Dad, the guy was fast. I said, so what? Whether win, lose, or draw, you always try your best on the field. You respect the field. You go 100 miles and running. Don't give up. So that's a lesson learned for him, and that's a lesson learned for me as well.
Yeah.
You got to keep it going, no matter what.
Yep. I believe that. Thank you, David, for commenting. I appreciate that. I do want to bring it back.
We have another question.
Another question? Where are we at?
At the bottom.
I didn't see that. I don't oh, okay. Mr. Rios, can you share a story or a time in your life where you felt like you were stuck or couldn't move forward? This is from Kimberly. Thank you, Kimberly.
I've always liked to look at life as parallel learning, your parallel movement going forward. And this is why I say, because I've always gone to school. For the last 30 years, I've gone to school, whether different programs or whether it's at a Department of Education program, whatever it is. And life's life. You're going to have your hardships. So you want to get educated, stay motivated, be dedicated, and moving forward. At the same time, life's going to take its toll, twists and turns. But there'll be times when I'm hanging out with people and everybody's having a good time. And I'm sitting there and I'm just thinking about, okay, while everybody's having a good time, I'm focusing on what my next move is, or I'm like trying to be a jack of all trades, right? So I'm trying to make that corner pocket move to say, what am I going to do to make myself successful, to be a better person today, to be a difference maker? So yes, there are many times that I experienced in my life where I felt stuck, but feeling stuck. There's this one inspiring motivational speaker who's a good friend of mine. And I'll even say his name, Mr. Rick Lara, said this as a friend. He says, you know what? He says, one time I said, man, I'm just going through hell right now. And you know what he said? He says, just keep on going. Because eventually you're going to get out of it.
There we go.
You know what I mean? You're going to get out of it. So it's okay to go through times of being stuck. It's okay to have four walls in front of you. It's okay for you to be on top of an oil spill and you're doing this with your feet. Because eventually you're going to spin out of it. You're going to roll out of it. You're going to step out of it, jump out of it, conquer out of it. You're going to do whatever it takes to keep on going. Right.
That reminds me of a quote from Frederick Douglass. Goes something along the lines, without struggle, there is no progress, right? You have to struggle. You're going to struggle. You're going to be stuck. You're going to fail. And when you fail forward, right? Fail forward. What I mean by that, if you're going to fail, keep moving forward, because it's going to happen. There's no avoiding that for anyone, right? Go ahead, go for it.
The key, Kimberly, is you have to gain wisdom and knowledge from your experience, so you won't let it happen again. Because temptation is a beast. going after something. We all think, oh, if I'm driving down the road and I see a bag full of money, my thing is, do I go grab it or do I leave it alone? Do I mind my own business? If I go grab it, that money can be tampered with or have codes in it or whatever. They track it down. Now I'm in trouble. Was it worth it? I'm gonna throw my whole life away for something like that? No. Why not get the longevity where you earn it? You set plantation and you put it away, and then you get your education, you get that job you really want, and then there's coming the flow of income that you desired the right way. So we've always looked at the temporary fix. The temporary fix sets us up for failure at times.
That instant gratification.
Instant gratification. Exactly.
Which a lot of, going back to earlier, thank you, Kimberly, for that question. That was awesome. Great question. And that's going back to what you mentioned about social media, right? Kids and young people, or people in general, are so attached, going into the rooms, kind of just isolating themselves, going online, getting that instant gratification every single day throughout the day, whether it be at home or at school. That is something to be conscious of and to be mindful of and pay attention to, because that could be dangerous, right? Huge distraction. So that just came to mind as you were talking about that. I want to bring it back. I asked you a question prior to the podcast, and we kind of already been talking a little bit about it, but I want to expand on it. So the question was, what are you currently up to, right? And your answer to that was getting more educated, right? And I think it's pretty clear that that's what you're doing, right? I really want to, within that, your 30th year in education. Can we talk about the beginning, middle, and where you're currently at with that?
Yeah, so I started off right when I graduated high school. I got a call from my brother Cruz's, one of his good friends, who's now a principal. He says, "Hey, we have a job opening. You want to work?" I said, "Absolutely." So I was working at another location. I said that was temporarily. That was good. I was working at In-N-Out Burger, okay, and In-N-Out Burger they have an In-N-Out university. So the guys were saying, "Hey, you can go to In-N-Out University and you could be successful." I loved the leadership they had at In-N-Out, the way they teach you, the way they guide you. It was amazing. It was like nothing I had to experience, but I knew that to have more impact, I would have to get into education. So I took a part-time job as an activity supervisor, was a noontime supervisor, working in the activities office. And it was at my alma mater. So I went back and there I was, and I said, you know what? I'm a former athlete. Let me get into coaching. So there I was working part-time, coaching full-time at the lower levels, which then expanded to varsity levels.
Right.
And then I was going to school full-time. So the whole time I was going to school full-time. That was my nucleus, my working. I was establishing my foundation. And then once after that, a teacher comes up to me, which was a former guy that I had my brother played football with. His name is Lance Takel. He says, "Hey, you ever think about being a teacher?" I said, "You know what? I never thought about it." But when he said that, he planted the seed. And then I decided to get into teaching. So years after, I went into the teaching field within K through 12 instruction. And I knew the lifespan of a teacher was 3 years. So I wanted to meet that lifespan of 3 at the time when I started. So I actually taught 3 years, and I said, you know what? It's time for me to shift. I didn't want to be that guy to yell at kids or redirect them and say, "Hey, you got to do this." I wanted to be that motivator, the person that inspired someone to do better. So I got out of teaching within the K-12 ranks, and I got into becoming a counselor. So I became a counselor for many, many years. And then, someone planted a seed and said, "Hey, you ever think about being an administrator?" So I already had my administrative credential, and I decided to go into administration. But I realized when you get into administration, no disrespect to anybody who's an administrator, that your focus shifts to dealing with the teachers, obviously, and dealing with parents, which there's nothing wrong with that, but your connection to the students is at a different capacity. So I went ahead and I had a meeting with one of the superintendents of the district I worked at, and I had a meeting with her. She says, "What's your 5-year plan?" I said, "Get my doctorate, to write a book, and to be a principal." And she says, "Okay, I'm going to pay for your education." So she sent me off to an institute at Laco LA County Department of Ed, and
Mhm.
she paid for my education. I respect her tremendously for that. One of the few people to ever say they got their administrative credential paid for. So I got it
Wow.
done. I was administrator for a couple years, and I said, you know what? I got to go back to what my first love is. And I said, let me go back to counseling. So I went into, after that transition, I worked at the juvenile hall system, working in units where it was a tough clientele. I did that for a couple years. And then I veered off towards becoming a lead counselor, did that for 7 years. And now I'm working as a regular counselor at a middle school. While doing all that, I've educated myself along the way, never stopped getting educated within all capacities, receiving my high school diploma, my AA degree, a bachelor's degree. Okay, my AA degree was in the general aspect, general studies.
Mhm.
And then I got a bachelor's degree in speech communication at Cal State Fullerton with a minor in art. And then I went to Azusa Pacific, received my first master's degree in education with emphasis in counseling.
There we go. Shout out to APU. I went there
Yeah,
too.
there you go. And then I went back to APU a couple years later because they recruited me to work there part-time. So I was working there like 15 hours a week to help out. They were a shorter person.
Mhm.
And then I decided that I was going to go back to school since I was there. So I got a second master's degree in education with an emphasis in administration. That's why I did the first tier of administration. And then I decided that, someone put a bug in my ear. Hey, there's this certificate that's well known in the state of California. So I decided to get a counseling certificate from UCLA. It's a 2-year program to be a college counselor. I got certified in that. And then I knew that I wasn't done. I just said, you know what, I got to keep going. So I looked around different programs. Believe it or not, I applied to other doctoral programs, and one of them never heard back from. The other one, I guess they may have overlooked me. And then I just said, you know what, I'm going to apply. A lady came to my job who ended up becoming my committee member.
Wow.
Yeah, Michelle Kuna. She came to my job and says, hey, I'm getting my doctoral or my doctorate in education leadership. I go, tell me a little bit about the program. So she was inspiring me. She told me a little bit about the program. And it was amazing because a week later I applied. A month later, I was accepted. And 2.5 years later, she became my committee member. And 6 months after that, which is the 3rd-year mark, I was able to defend. So
Wow.
here we are.
That's a resume for you.
Yeah, it's a resume. And
I love it. I love it.
and then on top of that, I forgot to mention, I started working part-time at the community college 20 years ago. This is the end of my 20th year teaching ESL classes. And I recently got certified for online teaching design, going back to school again. I got certified to be an online instructor for the rest of my career.
Wow.
So
my man, Adrian,
it's
doing it. Dreaming big. All right.
Oh man, you just got to do it. You got to do it. It hasn't been an easy road, but it's been a focused road. And Fullen and Quinn, for many researchers, you have to have a laser-like focus. And David and Kathleen, you remember that. Laser-like focus to make it happen. So that's what it is.
There we go. I appreciate that.
Man, when I can quote, to me, that's inspiring.
Another question I asked you earlier. What do you think people underestimate about you the most? And you had mentioned your response to it was they have underestimated me in a lot of ways. Can you expand on what way specifically?
My whole life, this is nothing new, man. I wish one of the persons that was here, I wish she would have stayed on, but she's gonna miss out on this. But I've been overlooked my whole life, man. I've been overlooked every capacity. I mean, I've applied for director jobs, assistant principal jobs, principal jobs. I've applied for everything. And thank you for applying. Better luck next time type of letter.
Right.
But you know what? All that does is empower me. People have looked down at me. People have mistreated me. People have call me out on things, but it just makes me stronger. I'll keep doing it because it's just going to keep empowering me. That's how I see it. You turn a negative into a positive.
Or making the fire bigger.
Yeah. And see, like, I feel like my path is really about to embark. I'm about to embark and explode on some great ventures of speaking engagements, and they're going to hear my story, and the truth is going to come out to say, like, why did you overlook me? Why didn't you give me a shot, a chance? You know, in one case in particular, I applied for assistant principal job. This was many years ago, and now I'm just glad I didn't get it. But I was 20 years into the profession, and they had hired numerous people that were like 3 years into the profession, 4 years into the profession. No disrespect to anybody, but are we looking for someone who's lived it, experienced it, got exposed to it, and has experience in it? Or are we just looking to, I don't know what the answer is for that. But it's just everybody, almost everyone that I've come across in a lot of, different capacities have overlooked my expertise and me giving advice. A lot of people don't listen, and that's okay. They don't have to. But like I said, I'm just going to do me to better equip myself. And when they're ready to listen, I'm ready to share the wisdom and the knowledge.
Just keep doing you, right? Just keep doing you.
That's it.
There we go.
Like I said, the way I grew up, the experience that I had, it was a tough lifestyle. It's just, there's no, you're not, I don't want to say I'm perfect, but if someone's trying to bring me down, it's going to be tough because, like I said, I'm just going to try to keep moving forward.
Right. And then throughout your journey, one thing that you highlighted a lot that's important is learning from your journey, from your experience, right? From the mistakes. And that's something that we can all tell that you do constantly. And that's like a key thing, especially when you want to kind of turn your dreams into a reality, right? You got to learn from that. And you fail forward, right? Keep it pushing, right? And that's exactly what you're doing. So I appreciate that, Adrian. Another question, something you do regularly, a practice or a habit that is challenging but totally worth it. Your response to that was read a lot and conduct research.
Yeah, right now, my mindset has gone from, trying to keep busy to even wherever I go. I'll go to my mother-in-law's house. I'll go to the beach. Everybody's saying, why are you carrying your computer? I said, because I would rather carry this that's full of knowledge in me being able to express myself by looking at, if I can look at 5 articles at the beach, why not? So my family, like my wife finally told me, she goes, you ready to live a little bit? I said, absolutely. I said, once this is done, I'm ready to do things. Let's go to the movies that we haven't done. Let's go hang out. But just being able to do research and learn from these past researchers and gain wisdom and knowledge. I didn't realize that, my topic is motivation and education resiliency, basically never giving up to reach your capacity within education. I feel that, I didn't realize there was a lot of people that had done that previously, as far as research based.
The same topic you're talking about?
Not so much the same topic, not the same topic, but tidbits of it.
Okay.
But that's good. But see, the thing is, I lived it. That's the difference. You know what I mean?
There we go. Say it louder, please. Can you say it louder?
I lived it, man. I lived
That's
it.
Right.
I owned it. I grew up in it, threw up in it, made it happen.
And nobody can take that away from you.
Nobody's ever going to take that away. If I pass away tonight, I lived my dream, man. That's the way I see it. I live my dream, and there's more. Like right now, as I'm speaking, there's a lot of people out that need to hear the message.
Yeah.
I was, no disrespect to anybody, but I was listening to the guest speakers today at the conference, and there was 4 speakers, and each one of them are experts in their field. And everything they were saying, like one person said, I went through this, one person would say, I went through this, went through this, went through this. All 4 of them together didn't even experience half of the things I experienced. And that's not to boast about. I'm not boasting about it. I'm just saying
That's the truth.
the true reality is going through a lot. You know, my brother could share, he's sitting right here. He could share with you some things we went through that, like, how the heck did we survive that? It's no joke. It's no joke, but that defines who I am. I'm never going to turn my back on that. Even guys that I hung out with that, you know, they made a wrong choice and they were put away for a long time. But when they came out, I still gave them respect because they were guys I grew up with, and they gave me respect by saying, hey, you still going to school, man? Keep it going. They love, no matter what life they lived or went through, they still like the fact that I kept going to school, which I respect that a lot.
Right,
I
right.
mean, it's motivating when someone struggled so much because their parents were there. They didn't have that same opportunity. But
Right.
it was like they were philosophers pushing me to go forward. Hey, don't give up, man. Keep going. But they wouldn't tell me in front of everybody. They pull me aside. Hey, keep it going, man. You got to keep going. Even my, you know, I baptized my neighbor's son, so he's considered my compadre, right?
Right.
And he would even to this day, he lives in a different country now, but he was telling, he said, hey man, when I talked to him, he says, hey, man, he goes, you're still going to school after all these years? You're still going to school? I said, man, I'm trying, man. So it's, you just got to lead by example.
I think too, a lot of key points you brought up, especially just kind of going back to remembering where you come from, embracing where you come from, your family, the struggle, right? And communicating that, presenting that, sharing that is transformational, right? And I think that's where vulnerability comes into play, right? I think being vulnerable is it could lead to a transformation, right? So if we're okay with sharing our story and planting those seeds, right? That starts to spread like wildfire because we all have a story to some extent. Everyone's different and there's some similarities in between. Like you mentioned, you know, you have 4 brothers, but everybody, you know, 4 people, 4 brothers, whatever the case is, we can all go in different directions, right? We can be raised in the same house, in the same family, the same school, the same grade, whatever. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? We decide what we want to do and how we decide to move forward with that. But
what got me recently was our firstborn granddaughter. And she's not here. I wish she would have been here, but our firstborn granddaughter, which is my brother Eddie's, his name's Eddie, he has Edward, but his daughter, you know, I helped her. She struggled in 4th, 5th, 6th grade with math. And I remember sitting at the table helping her. She said, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I said, you'll get it. Just stick to it. You'll get it. So anyway, she was the first grandchild and she ended up getting accepted. I helped her to apply to 4 colleges. She got accepted at Cal State LA. Well, this year she graduated, this past year she graduated, got her degree from Cal State LA. And I said, you know what? Graduated from Cal State LA is special. She says, why do you say that? I said, Edwards James almost graduated from Cal State LA.
I love Edwards James.
He's an inspiring, you know, who, you know, so she
legend.
Legend. So she looked at me like, wow, I didn't know that. Okay. So what's also inspiring is having my little son here. He just came up. He's inspiring to me. But she said something that she had never said before. She said,
what was that?
She said, hey, you know, you helped me out a lot through the process, through the journey.
Guests, by all means, if you have a comment or a question, feel free to raise your hand and we can still continue that.
Okay, so she said, you helped me through my journey, you know, but she never said that to me. She said it to my brother. I knew I'd helped her along the way, but those words, you helped me, you know, that to me, those are big because it's connecting to the next generation to make a difference.
Right. That's so true. All it takes is one, plant that seed, right? Exactly. I hear you on that, Adrian. I hear you. So Adrian, talk a little bit about the conferences you're going to be speaking at, or the conferences you have spoken at? What was that like?
Yeah, what
What
was
is it going to
funny,
be like? Yeah.
what was funny is I'll tell you a little bit about today, what happened today, but remind me about that.
Mhm.
I spoke at the Clute conference in Las Vegas. I got invited a month ago. I had to fill out all this paperwork and then showed up. I was able to take my family. We showed up at the Link Hotel in Vegas,
Mhm.
and it was the international conference. We had people from 14 different countries there, and I was
Nice.
the only one. There was a doctoral candidate speaking, and I was able to speak to a panel of
Mhm.
people that were kind of like judging me.
Mhm.
Uh, I haven't received the feedback yet, but it was is he there? Oh yeah. I haven't received the feedback yet, but my professor said that it was a great success, which will lead to other speaking engagements. They speak, they have conferences in Chicago, New York, Hawaii, San Francisco. So the plan of action is hopefully I can get on that train and make it happen if it's possible. She's the keynote speaker, so as long as she's the keynote, she's gonna continue to um, kind of vouch to help me to get the message out there. And
Right.
today's conference was the Hispanic Leadership Conference, which I showed up, surprised her. She was there, and they had a keynote speaker. They had four panel speakers, and one guy in particular who runs a nonprofit. He has a big name, and it was funny because when I was introduced to him, he was telling me about Santa Ana,
Mhm. Mhm.
and he didn't hear my story yet. So he was telling me all about Santa Ana and the benefit
Not
being
knowing
there.
you're from Santa Ana, you're
Yeah,
born and raised.
yeah. So
Okay.
then he says, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm born and raised in Santa Ana." And he goes, where more or less where'd you grow up? And I told him, and he was like, "Wow, you have a story." And then he said, "I'm gonna have you speak at a conference we're gonna be hosting, which a couple members are part of his group, which is the superintendent of Orange County Schools. Some big important people are part of his group. So he says, I want to have you speak to the youth, high schoolers. So I said, yeah, I gave him my number. But it was funny because he was telling me about Santa Ana, and I just kept smiling and smiling and let him say his part. And then when I started telling him my story, he was like, "Oh, I don't need to tell you anymore."
Yeah, he was like, I
Yeah.
should just be quiet. That's
So
cool though. That's
it was
interesting
good.
how it connected
So
that way.
so there's going to be a summer institute, which one of the doctoral representatives from CUI is going to have something. So she's going to try to get me to speak to the panel. So there's a couple opportunities, speaking engagements there, and then I'm going to sign myself up to it's a speaker series through the community college that I just got an email. So I'm going to sign myself up there to have the opportunity. And what's funny, this is, I mean, how things come together. I am at my mother-in-law's house last night, and guess who runs in front of me? The guys who's in charge of the speaker series.
Oh
I'm,
wow.
I'm yelling. It's at 10 o'clock at night. I'm yelling his name. He turns around. Hey, Mr. Rios. I said, hey, you're the guy I need to talk to. He says, why is that? I said, I'm interested in speaking at your speaker series event. And then he says, you got it, man. Just apply, and I'll be sure to make sure you do, because I've done a lot of work with them for the last 10 years, and we get
Right.
along really good. But at the same time, he knows my story. He knows my upbringing. He knows that I'm going to school. So he says, you're perfect for the series. So we'll see what happens.
There we go. Speaking of speaker series and just speaking opportunities in general, my foundation Dream Big project, starting next year, we have a youth outreach program. And essentially what we do within that program, we reach out to students, K through 12, and also youth organizations within the community as well. We're going to be putting together a lineup of speakers where we offer teachers, staff, or whomever reaches out to request certain speakers within our Dream Big project lineup. Essentially, the youth outreach program, I would be the speaker and the only speaker sharing, and that's how Dream Big was even started. right? I started sharing my story, started going to these schools, going to these classrooms, going to these organizations, and speaking and sharing my story along with my journey, right? Story journey, same thing. But the point I'm saying is that, would love to have you on as one of our speakers, if you're interested in that. So
I'm ready and willing. Not,
definitely. Okay.
No venue, no crowd intimidates me. It just motivates me to keep going. So I'm ready to share it.
Okay. Definitely touch base with you when the time comes so we can, get the details and get that going. But Mr. Rios, Adrian, I'm gonna go ahead and get rapid fire questions going.
You got it.
Ready for that? You ready for that?
Let's do it. You want to explain to the
yeah, let's do it. Definitely. So one way the way how I conclude my podcast is rapid fire questions. And what rapid fire questions are random questions that Adrian has no idea what I'm throwing at him. And his response to the first thing that comes to mind, right? And that's the purpose. That's what rapid fire questions are. So that's what it is. And I'm gonna go ahead and get that going. Adrian, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
To drink some water. You good? No.
Let me get a drink here.
Go for it. And so I have these questions aren't necessarily tied to. They're just random. They can be anything. And so I have 7 questions for you lined up. All righty? All right. First thing that comes to mind. Number 1. One thing you know now that you wish you knew 10 years ago.
To take reading, writing, speaking, listening, and thinking serious.
I like that. Great response. Favorite movie that you love?
I love Training Day.
Training Day, Denzel. Okay. I love Training Day too. A snapshot of an everyday moment that gives you true joy.
Can you repeat the question?
A snapshot of an everyday moment that gives you true joy.
I would just say hugging my family.
Nice. I love it. Tell me one thing you are grateful for.
Everybody's experiences and people. I'm grateful for people not giving me a chance so I can flip that non-negative chance and make it into a positive.
There we go. Turn negative into a positive. Love it. When you're not focusing on school, work, or projects, how do you like to spend your time?
Just collaborating with friends, family on the phone. My brothers always say, man, you're always on the phone. Just communicating, just letting my voice be heard and spreading the news, the message.
Got it. I love that. That's important. One piece of advice that you want all listeners to take with them after listening to this episode.
I want them to contact me so I can give them another hour, full pleasure, hour of power. Okay. I want them to contact me and just connect with me. And another movie that I really, really like, really inspiring, that makes me cry every time.
Got to add to it.
Is Stand and Deliver.
Oh, I love that movie. Stand and Deliver. Oh, I love that movie so much. I'm glad you brought that up. Makes me want to watch it again.
Yeah.
So this is the last question, and you brought it up kind of already, so it's just perfect. How can people get in touch with you? How can they connect with you?
I have a variety of emails. My wife has me set up on Instagram. It's at, I could put it in the chat.
Sure.
At Adrian Rene Rios. And I'm not sure what the end part is, but I think it's at Adrian Rene Rios. That's Instagram. Here's my email at SAC, Santa Ana College. That's my email. And then the rest can get a hold of me at Adrian dot, I think it's Rios at Eagles dot CUI.edu. Did I get that right, guys? Okay. That's the third email or second email. And then my other email is adrian.rios at SAUSD.us. And then if you really need to get a hold of me, just come to Santana, come to Santa Ana, my city, and ask for Mr. Rios.
Everybody would know where to point them to, right?
Yeah.
So Instagram, email, or just come to the city. Just come to the city and ask for Mr. Rios.
So Instagram and 3 emails. One is Santa Ana College, that's sac.edu. And then the Eagles is my Concordia University one. And then my district, Adrian Rios at SAUSD. If you're serious about me speaking for speaking engagement, just please contact me. I worked in the capacities of Santa Ana, Tustin, Norwalk, La Mirada, and Long Beach Unified. One thing I've been very fortunate is I've had some real good experiences working in a variety of districts, and I've always lived here and I've always stayed rooted here, but I wanted to gain, after watching a movie like Stand and Deliver, this is a true story. I got inspired. I wanted to work in Los Angeles County because my goal was to go to work at Garfield. I had an interview set up for Garfield, which fell through the cracks, and it's okay. It's okay. I had an interview for Jefferson High School. I actually got hired at Centennial High School in Compton and Willowbrook Middle School in Compton. And then I got hired in Long Beach at the same time. I selected Long Beach, and being there was a great inspiration for me because we won the American Broad Award, being the best urban school district in America. So that's something within the ranks that I carry with pride. And I talked to a lot of people about that when I talk to educators or people, important people that want to know facts. Those are the facts.
As you should, right? As you should. Adrian, so I really appreciate you being on the episode. Thank you for your time. Thank you to our guests for showing up for our first, live audience. I think it's amazing. It went fantastic.
We made history tonight.
Exactly. We made history. You can listen to this episode on Real Talk with Miguel Rivera. It's on YouTube, it's on Instagram, it's on all streaming platforms. So you can actually download the podcast, check out the episodes. This episode will be up, I would say, in a few days. But I want to encourage you to check in on the podcast, check it out. Adrian, thank you for your time, sir. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Look forward to speaking with you in person, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for attending. For the non-believers, please believe. There's an opportunity. Get a hold of me. Contact me. Let's make it happen. Let's get you situated so we can break all barriers and make our dreams come true.
Amen, brother. Everyone have a great weekend, a great day. See you next time.
Take care.